Did you stay up for the president's speech? I did, and then I actually watched Governor Huckabee Sanders' rebuttal. We'll talk about both, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Number one, President Biden had good energy. He did not look befuddled last night. All right, he read the speech in a crisp way. Standard issue, predictable Democratic speech. Corporations are evil, guns are evil, more abortion, please, higher taxes for the rich, government control of everything, standard issue, left-wing political speech. And Mr. Biden believes all of that, apparently, and he didn't really delve out of that. That's his comfort zone. Speech lasted an hour, 12 minutes. I did not learn one thing, not one thing. And that really torques me off. If I'm going to sit there for 72 minutes, I want to learn something. But it was just a standard issue. Now, the strongest part of Biden's speech was his desire to bring down prescription drug prices. That is a vital issue. And he mentioned insulin, so I had my producers immediately investigate the insulin thing. And what he said is true, that insulin prices over the past 20 years are up 1,200%. And people who have diabetes are getting hosed. And in drugs in general, the seniors, they want to cap Medicare co-pays at $2,000. I think that's a little low. But the Republican Party should get on board with this, because we are, as American citizens, paying far too much for drugs we need to live. Now, I know that the American pharmaceutical companies develop the drugs, and that costs billions of dollars to do that. I am aware. I don't demonize big pharma as Biden did. I don't think that's right. But surely there is a compromise, and again, the Republican Party should get on board with this. It's a big issue. The weakest part of Mr. Biden's speech was the continuing deceptions. So I'm going to run in a couple of sound bites and prove to you what the president is saying is not true. Number one is the deficit. Go.
In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion, the largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor.
That's a distortion. So in 2021, because of the COVID direct payments by the federal government, the federal deficit ballooned to 2.8. Those payments stopped by law. Biden had nothing to do with that, okay? And so the deficit fell to 1.4 trillion. It's still a colossal number. In fact, Biden is the biggest spending president in history by far. His administration is committed to spend right now $6.3 trillion, and he wants to spend more. Nobody else is even close. Trump or Obama, nobody else is even close to that number. Of course, Biden wouldn't tell you that, but that is the truth. Now, in Trump's second year, before COVID hit, the deficit was $779 billion. Okay, so Biden blaming Trump is insane. It's so dishonest. That's number one. Okay, number two is the economy in general. So, according to every poll, and we're going to give you a new one today in a little while, Americans are suffering economically. Every single poll. But Joe doesn't see it that way. Go.
2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all.
This baloney starts at the COVID government shutdown with COVID, when all those jobs left the building, and then when COVID subsided, those jobs came back. Had nothing to do with him. Now, to be fair, a 3.5% unemployment rate, which is what it is under Biden, is good. Trump had it twice. Very good. That's the only thing keeping this country from going into a severe recession, by the way, is that people have jobs and they continue to spend money. But Biden goes, oh, I created the jobs. It's just such a fantasy. But again, he believes all this. He does. I'm convinced of it. Now, this was almost the most outrageous thing he said. I mean, it's debatable, but boy, when I heard this, steam came out of my ears. Roll it.
Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. Big, you got it. So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border.
It's just so much. It's insulting. 2 years we've had an open border. 2 years. Biden's done nothing about the importation of narcotics from Mexico. Nothing. We have record-breaking amounts of illegal drugs crossing the southern border. Who makes fentanyl? China. And he says, well, let's launch a major surge and stop the sale and trafficking. Okay, you're not going to do anything. China's making it, sends it to the cartels in Mexico. They put it in pill form, and then they throw it up through the open border to it. It's so insulting. Now, I don't subscribe to people yelling at the president during the State of the Union address. I know some of you do. I do not. Okay? There's a decorum. And the people who are obviously opposing him on this, and I'm one of them, will have our say after he finishes. So I don't like this yelling liar business, and I don't like it. I don't think it's productive to do that. Now, very few people pick this up because I've been doing interviews on radio and TV all day. There was a terrible cheap shot in this speech at the end when the President of the United States equated the maniac who broke into the Pelosi home in San Francisco with January 6th and Trump. That was beneath the office of the presidency to do that. The cheapest of cheap shots. Okay? And again, it tells you about the character of the man. Didn't need to do that. Okay? But he can't help himself because he lives in a delusional world. Although that one, I'm laying 100% on him. The president did not say anything about the 6 million foreign nationals that crossed into the USA on his watch in 2 years. Didn't say a word about them. Not a word. Okay? He wants comprehensive immigration reform. That's amnesty. He knows Republicans are never going to vote for amnesty for 20 million illegal aliens. He knows it. Everybody knows it. So he doesn't really want it, but he's done nothing to secure the border. Violent crime. Nothing about violent crime. Listen to this. Okay, this comes from the FBI. So in 2021, there were 7 murders per 100,000 people in the USA. In 2018, 5 murders. That means the murder rate in this country is up 36%. Okay, on mostly Biden's watch. And if you follow the news at all, you know the catastrophes in New York City, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. You know them. It's a violent urban environment. He didn't mention it. Doesn't mention it. What he mentioned was gun crimes, like the guns kind of just walk out onto the street and shoot themselves. Not the drug gang armed with gun crimes. No. So again, I mean, you have a president who knows people believe what they want to believe. And facts don't matter anymore. That's what really gets me. The American people do not demand facts anymore before making up their minds. They just believe what they want to believe. The worst dereliction in that speech last night was that Biden didn't even mention the suffering of the American people because of inflation. He didn't even mention it. And people are suffering. One study has 75% of the American people living paycheck to paycheck. If you're doing that, you have no freedom. None. You're not free. I mean, I have a column posted on BillO'Reilly.com that tells you if you lose your job and you go insolvent, you're not free. I didn't even mention it. That under his watch, inflation just blew. And then when he does mention it in other forms, he blames Trump. And Trump left office at 1.4% inflation. It's a total lie. So I could go on and on and on and on, but you get the picture. And this is not ideological. It's not party. It's basically, is this man running the country well? And the answer is no. But he thinks he is. It's not like Carter. Jimmy Carter knew that his whole administration was tottering. Biden doesn't know that. He thinks he's doing a great, great job. Okay? And now I'm going to give you the last soundbite from Joe. This is what is coming in the election of 2024 and beyond. Go.
Workers have a right to form a union. Let's guarantee all workers have a living wage. Let's make sure working parents can afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave, affordable child care.
Every worker has a right to a living wage. Let's guarantee it, says President Biden. Well, who's going to make the determination of a living wage? Not going to be the corporations or the small business companies. Not going to be them. Not going to be the worker. Not going to be him or her. It's going to be the federal government. All right? A living wage. That's socialism. That's when the government guarantees what you get in the marketplace. Now, in a nation of 330 million people, in order for that to happen, in order for the federal government to control the economy by guaranteeing wages, medical leave, affordable child care, paid family leave, sick day, everything in the world, federal governments have to confiscate property to do it. They can't afford it on the current tax structure because people are taxed up to here no matter what Biden says. All right? So they're going to have to confiscate in order to make that happen. But the really scary part is he just throws this out. So you're going to see in 24 the Democratic Party, whoever the nominee is, and I don't think it's going to be Biden, but I could be wrong, okay, is they're going to guarantee every worker a living wage. Federal government's going to guarantee it. Not a minimum wage. No. This is going to be across the board. This person does this, they get paid this. This person does that, and the corporation, the company, are going to have any say in it. Boy, is that going to hurt the economy. Oh, and that's socialism.